I am here. Yes, indeed. 4 months, I haven't made a video. Best intentions, other things go on. I could give a list and all that, but I have been around. I've been doing some live webcasts, and just now for going on 2 weeks, where you can go to like live stream, and I'll tweet it out, also put it on my YouTube channel. I have also been faithful to doing the show that sucks with another YouTuber. That's been going on maybe one or two shows a week, and then work in between and all that. So I won't bore you with that. I'm here now, so I can say that a lot of what I started off with was hardcore technology and sorting out some really what I originally perceived and saw were frivolous arguments, not really rooted in technology. Today, really the technology interests aren't necessarily focused as much on the technology. You may disagree with it. I think a lot of what we're seeing right now with technology is driven by fashion statement consumerism, and I have my reasons for that. Doesn't necessarily make it bad or what have you, but I find, technically speaking, as far as technology goes, is a tremendous amount of repackaging with a whole lot of spit and polish put in of things 12 years old, essentially. So do I really? I ask myself, do I really want to talk about technology that, hey, in 1999, in like the Google Drive and SkyDrive and things like that, to go back 12 years to something called iTools that came out of Apple. One can argue prices and storage have changed, but I would say for what you used back then, the amount of storage that you had was sufficient for what you really needed, and the amount of bandwidth there and so on and so forth was still proportionate to really what you needed to use. And now we're doing movies and all these other things in HD. Of course you need more bandwidth, stuff like that. The size of the packet doesn't interest me, essentially. Other than that, I've had so many requests that I don't even know where to start, because again, it's been so long, and those of you that have followed me on the show that sucks or my own webcast really know a lot of my current opinion anyway. It's kind of why I've called my channel now like the Grumpy Tech, or I don't know, was it the Grumpy Technology channel or the Grumpy Tech channel? And mainly it's because of my frustrations of where we are, so to speak, right? Anyway, so let me try to get some things out, maybe make this video of some interest to you. First and foremost, I think I was asked a while back, all right, why don't you like iOS? I'd like to see you do a video on why you don't like iOS. If this is something you've already heard from me, then I'm sorry. I'll rehash just a little bit of it and try to keep it as concise as possible. I've owned 3 iPhones. I've progressed with iOS along those 3 iPhones, the first, second, third generation, 3GS being the last. So all of the real basic limitations, like copy and paste, weren't there. Browser-based apps only. These are things that a lot of people now that are picking up maybe an iPhone 4S have no clue of where it came from. Maybe it's good for them. They don't know where it came from. But those of you that have owned generation to generation to generation live with some of the frustrations. I for one, jailbroke every model that I had in order to get it to do what I wanted to do. I remember the first jailbreak I ever did was because I couldn't get over the nonsense of not being able to copy and paste and things like that. I switched to WebOS, right? Everybody that knows me knows I love WebOS. That's now an open operating system. We'll see what happens in September. They're going to have a whole new driver base and a non-proprietary kernel, which will probably, if adopted, rival Android and probably put in a very competent operating system in my opinion, into this mobile space. And I don't really like to. Let me put a quick segue. I don't particularly like or even entertain like these questions like I've seen on Twitter. Like a BlackBerry dev had asked this, I think on Twitter, is like, where do you see mobile in 10 years? My answer to that is I shouldn't see mobile in 10 years. There shouldn't be this second tier type of computing. In my opinion, mobile will mature into the type of computing that we have now. Therefore, we don't even need to call it mobile. And making a phone call is a simple service you can do on most devices anywhere, from a desktop to maybe a desktop base that is this thin and this small. My Mac Pro or whatever, a Mac Pro is that thin, what have you. Form factors are relevant to me, really. It's just the type of computing and the results that you get from the computing. So that's a quick segue. Getting back to the whole iOS issue. When I embraced WebOS and played with it, and it was due in part because of the frustrations that I had with iOS. Navigation, the alerts, and notifications, everything being app driven drove me crazy. My philosophy is the antithesis of there's an app for that. To me, it should be a service, right? Not all desktops work like apps. We have apps as part of the process, but it's essentially an app to provide through an essential service coming to you. The thing that extremely frustrated me really with iOS is there's so much, even as a developer, the limitation of API access that has progressively gotten better over time, and more access, but it's so many. It's like sandbox within sandbox and within sandbox, and intercommunication is like non-existent. Being able to even run things in parallel, which is just so nonsensical. If I'm expecting it to be a computing device, then it better do it. And I look for operating systems even on like what we would call mobile devices to do that. WebOS is very close to it, and BlackBerry's QNX BBX10 system, which is on the playbook, is both very impressive operating systems to me, and perhaps iOS will eventually get there. But I can't stand the whole app. There's an app for that mentality at all. It's just, I want a service. I want it to do something. If I want to be able to go over here, I don't want to have to jump through mountains or dig tunnels or whatever just to be able to get it done. And then, I know the answer is, well, the iPhone is built for the masses and blah, 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 blah. You see, and so many Apple pundits, like with ridiculous statements like, well, nobody goes in to buy an Android phone, and why? Because they just don't know anything about the software. Do you actually think most iOS users actually know anything about the software? You're crazy if you believe that. The majority of people that I know that even purchased an iPhone like it because it's the cool thing to have right now. It's not really, I'm not trying to really put down the product or anything, but BlackBerry experienced a cool period where it was the thing to have, i.e. Crackberry. It's a good place to be financially. But if you're really sitting there and thinking, oh, the ease of use and the OS does this and this and this is all the reasons and it's so rich featured, these are pundits preaching to their own chorus. It's insane to me. Listen, most iOS users don't even know how to use 10% of the operating system, right? My wife was one of them, but hardly even knew how to use it. It's so interesting. You have conversations with people and you say, oh yeah, you do this. They're more interested in saying, oh, I have this cool app, I can play a game on it, whatever. That's fine. There's consumers that want to do that, but they don't even know how to use the majority of the phone. And even there was something else that brought a lot of this out was the whole Smoke by Windows Phone, which I think is also a nonsensical campaign. Most of the Windows phones were faster because the users are incompetent and not even knowing their OS. They're not even knowing their OS. So if you put a competent person even with iOS or Android, what have you, I think it'd be more of a fair competition. But then again, if you lose, you get a free phone, so whatever. The whole crux of my problem is that the industry is focused on a subset software when we have software right now that's really ready to go parallel, like OS 10 that has Grand Central Dispatch, and ready to begin the movement into parallel execution, which opens up doors in types of computing that most people won't really conceive, and we're getting into better memory. Wozniak's working on things on that basis, that the speeds and the ability of the hardware and what we can provide to software, and getting software to adhere to that maximum potential is sitting here. Where we're all focused on what I dub bubblegum. And i.e., hey, I am the grumpy tech, so if I piss you off, whatever. This is the progression of what I've seen. I have videos where I was excited, like about the iPad. I go and use it. I was like, what? What am I going to do with it? And I know so many people that own tablets. It's just sitting there. It just sits here, clicks down. Okay, pick it up and maybe watch a movie on it. So you buy a $500 device to watch movies when you probably have a 32-inch in your living room. And so I have so many friends that all bought iPads. Either one was for a Christmas present or was something to have. They thought it was cool, and then they get it. Well, can't really find much use of it. And you could sit there and argue with me, but I'd pretty much just say, look, be honest with yourself. And if you're one of those people that find a use for it, good for you. I think you are really drowned out by the masses, like the Apple pundits like to use. And this goes with any tablet, essentially. Even I own a BlackBerry Playbook, and I try to push it and see if I can get where, but it gets very little use. But I didn't pay $500 for it either. So my son has a Kindle Fire. It is what it is. So, boy, going around in circles, I'm sure it's my typical fashion. Part of the reasons why I have just iOS is just not there, and Android to me is not. My wife just got a Droid Razor. She was really fed up also with iOS, even though she just barely knew how to use it. One interesting point that I'll make is that she didn't even know how to really delete email effectively within iOS, and she likes that in Android. And so I think that I was asked to do a video on some of the progression from my wife having her iPhone going to Android. The reason why I went to Android, there's a quick story to it, and this will bring in Flash, right, and other plug-in proprietary things. My wife would receive emails with attachments from her friends that were of a Flash nature or some sort of proprietary embedded technology that the iPhone can run. So my wife comes to me, I can't open this. Can you open it? My answer is like, no, iOS is not going to allow it. Oh, you're rolling your eyes, and we need to go to HTML5 and blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Flash is ubiquitous. And if you think HTML5 is your saving grace, we were coding engines and crap like that long ago, and consensus takes forever. And then you have lobbies anyway. And I'm not saying that HTML5 should go away. There's a world for both, and let them compete. But don't have a mindset of a zero-sum game and just say Flash is pathetic. Just wait till you get your little HTML5 canvas ads and things that start sucking the crap out of your CPU as well, and then taking up your screen real estate, and then security breaches like through WebGL and all this other crap. And oh, by the way, we can't run WebGL, so because we have to turn it off because of a default security setting, and then Safari, you need to go here and turn it on here. Are you people serious? I mean, this is the kind of nonsense that I'm talking about. So anyway, I always said Apple should just make your damn claim with HTML5, but don't shut out the freaking rest of the universe. Well, Mr. Pitt, I don't need Flash. Really, I don't even use Flash. But yet you're the same type of complainer that says on your desktop it juices your CPU, so you must be using it somewhere. Oh, it's your ads or whatever. Well, there's lots of ad blockers and things like that. It's just funny. The complainers know so much about something, but then claim it's just there's just no use for it, or they don't use it. Whatever. Anyhow, so it's a change for my wife. Android is not my favorite UI, and it's got modal blur, which is also, I don't like the skin things on top, but it is what it is, right? HTC's got its thing, Samsung's got its thing. It markets to all these things. I'm also not for a unified OS. I think it's so retarded that people say we must have one OS. These pundits. Yes, users want to be able to upgrade. The reason why you have iOS upgrades is because people plug it into the machine and it says, upgrade me. Oh, let me click the button. Do you actually think they know or care about what's going on? It's crazy. If Android actually pushed operating system upgrades out there, people would hit it. I guarantee you the people are upgrading their firmware or little carrier upgrades all the time. So, it's ridiculous. Oh, yes. iOS users look how much in masses are upgrading. It's because, like I said, you're plugging the damn thing in and it says upgrade me, and who doesn't click that button? Anyway, getting back to it. So my wife, it's a whole new experience. It's kind of like when she got off her feature phone, going to a smartphone, and having to learn iOS, right? So there's another learning curve with this, and she likes the widget things, and she likes how it can open Flash content and play it, and from her friends that she gets, and the little, I guess it's called widgets, right? Like with the Facebook thing and all this other stuff. However, she will say, "Oh, I kind of miss my iPhone," and I'll ask her, and she doesn't have any particular software reason, other than she admits that it was the thing to have. If her friends have it, that's like the item. She has that consumerism in her with, like all of us. I'm vain in many other things other than, technology not so much, but I'm very vain in other things. You go out she goes out with her friends, they buy something, it's nice, they like to share about it, and oh, it's so cool to have the product, and let me get the product too. That kind of mentality. So that's what it came down to, because I asked her, I said, well, let's go over what it is lacking, or if it's so far she really likes what Android has to, what it's offering her. And I will tell you, Android doesn't really know how to say no, but it's also never been my favorite UI either. To me, it's just a toss-up between iOS and Android in terms of, do you want an operating system that is really, even in its best UI position? I haven't seen. I don't know what Ice Cream Sandwich will do on the Droid Razor, but it's hard for me to kind of put in words. You have an operating system that doesn't know how to say no, but it doesn't seem as polished is the right word. And then you have another operating system that is polished, but it's more of an antique that's been polished at this point. And you kind of look at it and say, well, it doesn't do X, Y, and Z. From my point, you can disagree with me, whatever. I guess that'd be my best analogy for it. But I'm going to give her 6 months, and we'll see how it goes. I'll tell you one thing, it hasn't dropped one call. It's so funny. Oh, everybody has, my phone doesn't drop calls, but, my BlackBerry from AT&T and other AT&T phones, no drop calls. All of my iPhones on AT&T drop calls. My friends on Verizon drop calls. I only have 2 friends now that have Sprint iPhones. They haven't really given me much feedback, but I'll keep you updated. Maybe it's just Houston or something, but I have friends that were in freaking San Francisco and Los Angeles complaining, so I know that I'm not only the crazy one and wanting to say, it's just this local phone. Maybe it is just the U.S. because everybody overseas seems to say it's wonderful and blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. Here, let's do something about it, because there's a freaking reason why a bunch of AT&T phones don't seem to drop calls, but the iPhone seems to. Okay, that's whatever. But that's a good thing, because my wife and I would routinely have a conversation on our way home from work, and 5 drop calls usually in the middle of the conversation. It's nice now. We can talk the whole way without a drop call. So, mind my mood, whatever. Anyway, I think those are some of the things that people have asked of me so far. My stance on tablets are that they're nowhere near. I think the whole post PC. What's a good mantra? I want to just say mantra that, because so many pundits like that use this. Is the most backwards saying now at this point. To me, tablets will mature into grown-ups eventually. The software. Now I'm not talking about the form factor. The software will eventually grow up to be the big boys, and you're watching it happen. Whether you want to accept it or not, you're adding complexities, and the more that people choose one form factor over the other, the complexities will have to follow. And so, to me, it's just a matter of time before. And some people say, "Yeah, that's the future. It's the future. It's the future." And then my question to you is, How many sets of $500 are you willing to spend in order to wait for the future? Thanks for watching.